Hi everybody. Well, St. Patrick's Day is upon us, and so I'm going to show you how to make a boiled dinner, corned beef and cabbage and other things. And this really shouldn't just be a once a year thing. It's quite delicious, kind of stick to your ribs, very hearty cuisine. It's really good for you. And also, this makes some of the best soup stock around. So first let's talk about how you shop for corned beef for the brisket for this dinner. Okay, so now we're going shopping for corned beef, and we've got a bunch of choices here at very different prices, as you can see. All right, now here's a bunch of different kinds, and of course we've got the corned beef round here. You want to, this is really for sandwiches, as it shows. It's thin sliced, it doesn't have very much fat, and it's also kind of a funny shape. So I think shape is important. This grass-fed brisket also has a weird shape to it. So what I look for, of course that's twice the money and it's probably better for you, but this is what I look for, something that's nice and rectangular, because what we want to do, just like is shown here in the picture, we want to get slices that are like that for our boiled dinner. That's more or less what it's going to look like. And so this will be the one I choose. It's got some nice fat on one side, right along here, sort of like marbling, and that's the one I'm going to pick. Okay, so here's the brisket that I picked out, and the first thing we're going to do is cut into that and wash it. Before I get started, I'm just going to let you know what all the ingredients are here. I have them, we're going to do it in a slow cooker, and I have these all kind of in the order of appearance. So there is a little packet of coriander with a little tiny bit of bay leaf in here, but it's not enough. So we're going to add more bay leaf. Most of you are probably buying your bay leaves at $5 a jar like this, but if you go to a Mexican market, I got the same amount for 99 cents. And so you want to buy your bay leaves in bulk or get them in these little packages from a Mexican market. All of these vegetables cook at different speeds. So we have to put them in that order. About an hour and a half before the dish is ready, we're going to turn it from low to high so that we get a good boil, and we're going to add potatoes. Now, if you boil a potato for an hour and a half, if it's cut, so if you use large potatoes and cut them into pieces, they're going to kind of fall apart and mush up the dish. So I like to use whole small potatoes, could be fingerlings, which are delicious, or Yukon Gold, which is what these are, and we just toss them in there. So just remember, when we put the water in, we want to leave room for all this stuff. The next thing is the onions, and they take about 45 minutes to cook. If they're little onions like these, they'll take about an hour. So these pearl onions are really the really classy way to go, but the trouble is they are very tedious to peel. And so I actually got Ruthie to do this for me. She volunteered because she really likes the little pearl onions, but most of the time I just take a regular onion and I'll cut it here, but leave this intact, and then I'll peel it and cut it into wedges so that they hold together, and I'll throw that in. And that only takes about a half an hour. So that would be the last thing. At that same time, about a half an hour in, we need to add some carrots. Now, I'm lazy, and so rather than to peel and cut whole carrots, and I would do that if I had them in my garden, but I just get these baby carrots, and they cook in about 25 to 30 minutes. So put them in before. Now this is a rutabaga, and I'll be peeling this. This is probably the peeler that you have. That's an American peeler, and so you're doing this kind of stuff. This is a French style peeler that you pull towards yourself. It's much more efficient, so that's what I prefer. And then right at the end, it takes about 8 minutes to cook your cabbage. So we'll be cutting this into wedges and dropping it in. We still want it to be green and crisp when we serve the dish. So that's the very end. And then to accompany the dish, I like a dry white with some nice aromatics to it. This is my Pinot Gris. You could use a Sauvignon Blanc. This stuff is kind of amazing though, because I did it in a style where we pre-oxidize the juice before we ferment and take out all the tannins and all the browning. And so this is a 2014 and it's quite fresh. It tastes like a 2020, very aromatic. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna have, and I don't know about you, but I really like some horseradish with my boiled dinner. All right, so the first thing we gotta do is to get this guy into the slow cooker, and there's a lot of blood around here, so I'm just going to cut into the package and rinse off all that blood. These shears from Cutco are great because I can take them apart and clean them. And I just love them. And they'll cut anything. Reassemble, very easy to work with. So here's just gonna that guy. Here's the spice packet. There we go. Isn't that a nice shape? You see we got this layer of fat here that's very tasty. There's not too much of it, but there's enough to just really impart some wonderful flavor. It's one of the reasons why we have such a nice stock here. So now I'm just going to put that down there. I'm going to toss in some bay leaf. You don't want to overdo the bay leaf because it can make the stock bitter. But we don't want to underdo it either because it imparts such wonderful aromatics. And then get our spice packet. You can just toss it right in there. It doesn't really matter. It's going to float around. And then we're going to cover this with water. The more water, the better. The more that wonderful stock we get. But we need to leave room for the expansion from heat and also to put all that other stuff in there. So I'm just kind of eyeballing how much I'm going to need. Something like that. And then this is going to cook for 6 hours. And
okay, rolling.
all right, now we've gone up to high, so we got a rolling boil there, and we'll just drop these potatoes in there, and those are going to take a little about over an hour to cook. All right, now it's time to add the onion. I've got going to add. First, I should put these guys in because they take a little longer. Now, if we've got about 20 minutes to go on this, or 25, and you're putting these baby carrots. Now, if you use regular carrots, whole carrots that you slice, it takes a little longer, but these will go in. They cook relatively fast. So. We're slicing this like we have before, just making sure that that knot is still part of the deal because it'll hold everything together. Here's the rutabagas. These cook very quickly, and we don't want them to be mushy, so we wait. Okay, now we're going to put these guys in, and we want them to be crisp and green at the end, and so they cook very quickly. I'm just going to get those in. I've got to immerse them. Look at how clever I am to get the level of the water just right. I'm just going to push them down in, make sure they're submerged. There we go, like that, and like that. And then we're going to set that timer for 8 minutes. Okay, so now it's time to plate everything, and the most important thing is to get that cabbage out of there. So you see how beautiful it is. It's nice and green and crisp, and we're going to pop that right into our soup plates here, so that occupies a lot of real estate in the dish. And then the next thing is to get that corned beef out of there. It's going to be nice and beautiful red in the middle, and we'll serve a couple of slices to everybody. Carefully as you can, keep it from shredding. We have a really nice knife. It'll do the trick. Alright, and then 2 beautiful pieces here with that nice fat on the bottom. It goes here. And now we'll just add all the vegetables. And I gotta tell you, this stock that's left behind is just fabulous. And that is the dish. We'll put some of this wonderful stock. And sometimes I'll serve that in a mug on the side. Now this is a very powerful stock, and so when you make soup from it, you'll have to decide, but you may choose to dilute it as much as 1-to-1 with water, because it's just so tasty. But it has a lot of salt in it. Oh man, I just love that. So all right, so here's the dish. I've got my horseradish to go with it. This is a creamed horseradish, so it's a little bit milder. And I'm going to throw some of that right in there. What I'm pouring here, this is a very unusual wine. It's a Pinot Gris from Ario Secco, from the Meader family ranch. Doug Meader was very instrumental in the original plantings in Ario Secco down in Monterey. And this is a beautiful, light, crisp, fresh white. Just a thing. But the interesting thing about it is that's a 2014 wine, and it's still just fresh as a daisy. Reason for that is that I pre-oxidized the juice to take all the tannin out. So there really isn't anything in this wine to oxidize. And here we are 6 years later, and it's still as if it were brand new. The other thing I did was to put a heat exchanger on top of the fermenter to reflux the aromas. If you walk into a winery during crush, you'll smell all these great grapey aromas that just are being wasted into the atmosphere. And so I really like, with a wine like this, to distill them back into the fermenter, and that's how this wine was made. So it's aromatically just beautiful all that time. Later, it's developed a little bit of extra richness over that time. So here we go. You need a knife, a fork, and a spoon to eat this dish. You're going to start with this potato. I find the potatoes absorb a lot of the flavor. Wow. Okay. And then let's get a little cabbage on the scene here. Nice and crisp and green. Cabbage is very easy to overcook, and it can get kind of stinky. So that's why we treat it with respect. And just that 8 minutes, it'll do it. Oh, it's so good. All right, now I've got to get myself a piece of this wonderful corned beef with a nice fat layer on it. Oh boy, but I sure like horseradish. I'm just going to work my way through all these vegetables. Such a hearty, healthy, inexpensive, easy dish to prepare. You toss the corned beef in the morning and come back. And you do what we do. We're watching TV, and then every few minutes we go add something else into it. And it creates this beautiful dish. And of course, you need that spoon, because really the best part is this stock. Oh boy. From the happy Celtic Jersey boy, Slante.